Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time for this interview.
You're welcome.
You're mostly known for Queens and Lance, that's why you're probably here. What's it like to be part of a series with such a dedicated fan base?
It feels quite fortunate, really. I mean, goodness, that's kind of what you want to get involved in, isn't it? I was in Los Angeles for many years doing, with sort of nominal success on certain shows. They do the pilots and then they picked up the series and run for a season, run maybe for 2 seasons, and maybe guest on other shows that are more established. And then suddenly, in 2012, when this was the next pilot I was doing, and is it going to get picked up for series? And is anybody watching it? And then suddenly at the end of the season, you go, oh my God, it's a hit. It's an international smash hit. And then you go, oh, okay, let's do that again for a second season. And it's really nice to be involved in that because, it's just a privilege, really.
Yeah, you visit a lot of Comic Cons also together with Steven, I think?
Yeah, we've done a bunch over the years. It's all part of the landscape, really.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. It's good fun.
Good. The characters you play are often quite complicated.
Well, life's complicated.
That's true.
Yeah.
How do you approach a character like that?
How do I what?
Approach a character like that?
Well, okay, so in essence, I'm not actually a very good actor. So I can't just turn up on set and just dump it out like some people can. And people say, oh, how much of the character of you is in the character? I'm like, absolutely none. Because my character will just completely mess with the acting and the rest of it, So I have to absolutely 100% create a whole new skeleton with flesh on it and brains in it and words that sort of fall out of physicality and everything. Because I can't get me involved at all. It'll be a disaster. So I do have to. It's incredibly boring, sort of actors prattling on about acting process, but I do have to spend a lot of time doing it, and I enjoy it. It's great. Just
what did you bring into Vincent?
Me?
Yeah.
Nothing. I just told you that.
No, how did you build him as a character?
Okay, so first of all, for all of us, it's the psychology of building first. So we all have something we feel about ourselves that we're not aware of, okay? And when something happened when you were 3, when something happened when you were 4, and you went, and you went, and you went, and all these little subliminal, events and effects and things that occur in your psychology build and develop to make you ultimately at some point try and offset that generally negative feeling you have about yourself, and you go, oh, when I do this, I don't have that feeling anymore. Of course, this is all subconscious. So then we all develop our characters and we think, oh, if I'm a center of attention, I'm actually okay. Or if I'm admired, then I'm not that thing I don't know I think I am. Blah, blah. So you start with the history. For me, I start with the history of the character and imagining and creating those events that made him at some point feel crap about himself without necessarily knowing the effect he was having. So it's the story of his stories that he's experienced that start building the basis of yet another disastrous psychological character.
Did you have any input yourself on the character development?
Well, obviously what's put on the page is being put there by the writer, and if it's a good writer, as was the case obviously with Arrow, there's plenty to work from. But I just see those as little clues and pointers for you to sort of go further down the road with in terms of developing it more, putting flesh on the bone. And I don't know. For me, the more I know about the character, the less I have to act. So it's just better if you don't do lots of unnecessary acting. So I just create as much about the character as I can, which obviously the writer has laid the foundation for. And then once you've done all that, done your scenes, the most important thing after that is to listen to the other actors in the scene, because that's when real things happen. Not many actors do it, to be honest. It's quite extraordinary. Because most people are thinking, oh, when I said it last night in the hotel room, and I said it like that, that'll be brilliant, I'll say it like that again. And I've been guilty of that myself. But the best results are when you get your character, forget about your own nonsense, listen to the other actor, and all of a sudden something real happens. And you go, oh, that was a good scene.
Nice. You've done a lot of TV work in your career. TV has gotten a lot more popular than it used to be.
There's a lot more of it now, isn't it?
Golden
Crikey.
age of television.
Yeah.
Do you think TV is a better medium of telling an elaborate story than movies?
Well, that's your key word, isn't it? Elaborate story, because obviously within film or a play, it's generally a 3-act structure. There's a goodie, a baddie, a relationship, and then up a mountain, lots of obstacles, come down the other side, go off into the sunset. So every story, just different characters and different premises, and that's great because we learn from those, and that's classic storytelling and hero's journey and all that stuff. The great thing about TV is that you can sort of represent the greater complications of character more easily, can't you? Because you've got the parameters in which to do it. And for example, my character on Arrow was the antagonist in the first season. Second season, it was a bit more blurry. And then as the seasons went by, you get to explore whether it's the protagonist, the antagonist, whoever it is. You get to explore more areas of people's characters, and we're all complicated. We're not all just good or bad. We all do some good things, and we all do some kind of useless things. And so with TV, because you've got just so much more time in which to explore it, fingers crossed, you can explore all those different aspects, and as you said, the more elaborate sort of elements of character. So that's what is great about TV, and you get a new script every week.
Do you have a preference for TV then, as an actor?
Look, I mean, to me, it's a good script. A good script is a good script. If it's from the last film I did was Danish. I did a Bollywood film, an American film, English film, TV, theatre, whatever it is. I don't really have a preference as long as it's a good script.
How did you get into Bollywood?
That's a good question. Well, I was in London. I was in just at the end of the 90s. I was just sort of carving my way. Some things were just sort of starting to happen, and I wasn't working in restaurants anymore. I was making a living as an actor. Oh my God! And then my agent called me and said, "There's this Bollywood film. Do you want to go in for it?" And I was like, Bollywood film for it? It's a bit strange. And I was sort of overthinking this thing, and what is a career? Why would I do this? Why would I do that? And I read the script. I could barely get through the script. It was about 1,000 pages long, with I think 78 speaking characters. I don't know. And I went in for the audition, and they said, do you think you'd be able to speak Hindi? And I said, well, I haven't really done it before, to be honest, but give it a whirl. And they said, see if you could say this line. And they just said something. And I just went, and they went, that was very good. And I went, how did that happen? And the next thing I know, I'm learning Hindi for the next 4 months leading up to this film. But ultimately, instead of thinking, oh, is this going to be a good thing for my career and all the rest of it, I woke up one morning, I went, shut up, even if it's a lot of rubbish, you get to go to India for 5 months and ride around the desert on a horse. And then it turned out to be nominated for the Oscars, Best Foreign Language category in 2002, which is how I ended up in LA, and then ended up doing all the things that brought me here. Sitting here today.
Yeah.
So thank you, Bollywood.
What's the most important lessons you've learned as an actor in Hollywood?
Don't rest on your laurels. Don't take it for granted. If you have any sort of modicum of success, it's easy to just sort of, roll along with that and then just sort of turn up a bit half-baked and, we've done this before, it'll be fine and all the rest of it. But in any moment where I ever slipped into that, you go, oh God, this is horrible, it's just not in a comfort zone. So, I don't know, the biggest lesson for me is absolutely making sure that you apply yourself to the day's work, whether in our case it's in the 8th season of doing it, 170 episodes later, or the first day of shooting. And then the other thing, and it's absolutely the most important thing, is enjoying it. Because I remember when Mel Gibson did Hamlet, and everyone sort of went, oh, Mel Gibson's doing Hamlet. And there was a critic that said, do you know what? It's not the best Hamlet you'll ever see. Let's be honest. But he's enjoying himself so much, you can't help but enjoy it too. And I think you can sense that. And there's times when I didn't let myself enjoy the process or the moment as much as I could have done. And that, to me, I think at the end of the day, all the obvious things, do your homework, be ready, be respectful, turn up on time, blah, 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 all the obvious stuff, right? The textbook stuff. But the one you absolutely have to remember at the end of the day, when they go action, enjoy it. It's called a play.
That's a good lesson.
Right? It's called a play, not a, oh my God, I'm doing a stress next week. It's called a play. So, that actually is the biggest lesson for me, just like, enjoy it.
You also teach that to younger colleagues?
Say again?
Do you teach that to younger colleagues?
Do you know what? I've actually had a great time doing some teaching over the years. There was a school, well, you have to be careful with saying things to actors on set, because you don't want to be, you're like that guy. But I've been fortunate to work in some schools at times, and there was a school in Inglewood, just next to Compton in LA, and BAFTA, the British Academy, set up this program where BAFTA members could give something back to the community that had been so good to us. So I used to go down to this school and mentor these kids in absolutely, gang-driven, drug-driven, gang-ridden, drug-ridden neighborhoods, and teach them film and well, basically they were there to make a short film. So we would step in and be like, okay, so let's start with the script. Right, let's start. And then we've got to shoot it, and then we've got to edit it, and then we've got to this, and we've got to act it, and I just, it's all about what you allow yourself to think, isn't it? We put these ceilings on ourselves constantly, like, oh, well, I don't think whether we're aware of them or not. And I remember when I got to LA for the first time, I called my agent in London. I said, listen, I just landed up in LA. Did you set up some meetings? And she said, well, it's very competitive in LA. I went, anyway, I've ended up in LA. Can you set up some meetings? Well, it's not going to be easy. Anyway, I've ended up in LA. Can you set up some meetings? I wasn't interested in subscribing to her story. So when I would teach these kids, I would say, listen, I'm from like 6,000 miles away from that Hollywood sign. You can just see out the window there. That's only 15 miles away from here. And I know you're in a neighborhood that makes you've been sort of told and made to believe that you're not going to break out of this neighborhood and what chance have you in life and all the rest of it. But that's just a thought in your head. And drop that thought. Just let it go. Anything's possible. And at least you're a bit closer to the Hollywood sign than I was. And I just grew up in horrible little houses in England, in the middle of England. I didn't grow up in anything particularly special. There's no reason why I should be here by right, And again, it's going back to that story, that psychology that you sort of tell yourself, and the beliefs that you have according to those things that happen in your life. And I used to just love teaching those kids, anything is possible. And now one of them is actually, she went to UCLA and now she's on this high flyers program, and a bunch of them have done well, but there's one real particular success story, and just that's so great. So yeah.
That's all for our interview. Thank you so much for your time.
I didn't ramble on too much.
No, I love
Okay.
you. Thank you very much.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.